What is up? What's your why, listeners? We have another special guest this week, Ted Mullin. Ted was actually kind of introduced to me and sent to me by my cousin Jaxson Turner, and told me, "Hey, Ty, you need to have this guy in your podcast." And so I did. I trusted him, and I was like, "Hey, let's just see what this guy's all about." I went into this podcast not knowing almost anything about him, except for that he had started a Christian clothing company and that he plays football. I think we got really deep and we got a really good conversation out of this podcast, and I hope you guys enjoy listening to it as much as I did recording it. Ted's a super fascinating guy, Colorado born, but is now loving Grand Forks, North Dakota. Give it a listen. If you like it, share it. I appreciate you guys listening here, and enjoy this 10th episode of the What's Your Why podcast. Thank you. In a decent range, okay. The mic. Just kind of pull a little bit closer to you.
Okay.
But we're recording.
So
I'll kind of ask them the same questions I already asked you from. So. Yeah. Kind of just do a super brief intro of who you are, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so my name's Ted Mullin, and I'm from Littleton, Colorado, and that's where I grew up and came to North Dakota to play football, University of North Dakota. And so graduated high school 2018, summer 2018, came up here, and, ever since then it's been – I never really pictured myself in North Dakota, let alone Grand Forks, North Dakota, but here I am. And so now I – graduated in May with a double major in management and marketing from UND, and then I am now in the Master's of Business Administration program.
Oh, right on. So let's just back up a little bit. So Littleton, what part of Colorado is that?
So it's about 30 minutes south of Denver. So it's kind of right in the foothills. Super good area to, you kind of got anything you want, anything outdoors. Denver's close, and so it's really, I'm super fortunate to be from there. I think that it's something that it's a really, really good area.
Did you grow up doing that stuff, or?
Yeah. I grew up skiing. Skiing's kind of where my heart's at.
Okay.
But just kind of being outdoors, being in the mountains and stuff like that. So it's something that I'm super, super passionate about. And there's not quite as much of that in North Dakota. But,
definitely not.
There's kind of like a thing that for a while I was kind of like bitter, because it's like, we don't get to do anything. Like that, but I kind of, found a new gratefulness for, Colorado and even, a lot of North Dakota. Like,
do you get back there often, or?
Yeah, we usually get to go, because it's, a pretty good ways away. I'm usually back, winter break, spring breaks, and then we get a little bit of time this summer. To get home. So apart from that, I get to see my family a good amount just because they're able to come up for football games. So, I get to see him, so which is nice. And but yeah, at first it was really like I really, really missed home, consistently. But as I got older, I kind of realized like this is my home. This is where I go to school, and this is where all my friends are at. It's kind of where my life is, and so it's in Grand Forks. But yeah. So
you grew up doing like skiing mostly, or anything else in the outdoors?
Yeah, skiing, a lot of fishing, like fly fishing a lot, and hiking and stuff like that. I'd never snowboarded. It's something that I do want to do, but
I'm a skier too.
You are a skier?
I would like to try snowboarding, but I have skis, so it's just cheaper to do it that way.
Yeah,
for
100%. Me. And when you're already, you can already go. It's like it's hard to want to spend a day falling down.
For sure.
So that's a part of it too. But
fly fishing is something that has seemed super interesting to me. And now I'm sure you've gone fishing up here.
Yeah.
And lake fishing.
Yeah.
What's the difference?
I think lake fishing is a little more relaxing. I think that, it kind of depends on what you're going for, but you can just kind of throw a bobber out there and then watch it. But fly fishing is you're using both hands. You're in a river, a flowing river and stuff like that. And so I think that there's not like a necessarily, you have to really learn how to fly fish, I guess. Kind of fishing, you throw it out there, and it's more of a patience game. There's patience in fly fishing too, but you kind of control you have to make it look like a fly, like on the water, and so you have
Okay.
to fool the fish. And
Right on.
my brother's a really good fly fisherman, and so when I go with him, he's got some crazy techniques that
Mm-hmm.
he uses, and there's like little parts, like if your line is like in front of your fly, like the fish know it's not a fly, and so it's
Okay.
super technical, but it's really like it's fun. And so when you do get one, it's like, wow, like that was worth it, and it's kind of it's pretty exhilarating. It feels like hunting. Like it's not like
Okay.
And I'm not a huge hunter, you know. I've never
Mhm.
really been hunting, but I don't know, if I were to picture,
I could
feel like it's kind of like that.
I've never fly fished.
Mm-hmm.
I've watched a lot of fly fishing videos,
Mm-hmm.
but we just don't have
Yeah,
that
I know.
around here.
Yeah.
But I am a hunter, not a good hunter.
Yeah. What do you
Usually,
hunt for?
usually just whitetail.
Yeah.
I would love to do like an elk hunt
Oh my gosh.
at
yeah.
some point. But you can't really do that around here.
No.
But mostly whitetail hunting.
Mhm.
I usually say I go hiking because I don't get anything.
Yeah.
But no, I have done lake fishing kind of my whole life.
Yeah.
And then like northern Minnesota is where my family's
yeah.
from. So Lake of the Woods.
Mhm.
And then up by like the Boundary Waters is where the other side of my family's
Mhm.
from. So a lot of lake fishing in the
Mhm.
family.
Yeah. Have
I
you been
can-
to the Boundary Waters before? I mean, I'm sure you.
Yeah.
I've heard some really cool stuff about.
I've never
that
gone
area.
canoeing
Yeah.
up in like the actual Boundary Waters,
Mhm.
but if you go a little bit more downstream to like the Rainy or not up the Rainy River more to like Voyageurs National Park,
Yeah.
if you're familiar with that.
Mhm.
Well, you know Jackson, right?
Yeah.
Our families used to go camping
Mm-hmm.
up on like Lake Capitogama and Namakan Lake up in the
Mhm.
Voyageurs National Park there, and it's beautiful. It's
I
just
bet.
like you have to take a boat or a kayak or
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
to get to an island where you camp,
That's sweet.
and it's
I think
beautiful.
he's mentioned that. I think that he said. I think it was his uncle. Is
Yeah.
that right? I mean,
Probably.
they've done some stuff like that, and so yeah, it sounds sweet.
Yeah, we did when we were really young. Is when I would have gone with him.
Mm-hmm.
They're not as much of an outdoorsy family. They
Oh,
live
yeah.
in the woods,
Yeah.
but they
I
don't
know.
they don't do a whole lot out there.
Lake fam.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. They like to sit at the dock in the
Yeah,
boat.
yeah.
But no, outdoors is also a passion of mine for
Mhm.
sure. I love getting out there as much as possible.
Yeah.
Like this weekend, I was out racing.
Yeah. Tell me
And-
about your race.
Oh, dude, it was awful.
Really?
It was first 30 miles went very well.
Yeah.
It was a 56-mile race.
And where was it?
Medora.
Okay.
It was just north of Medora.
Yeah.
Got 30 miles in, felt good.
Mm-hmm.
Was taking in a lot of water.
Mm-hmm.
Over when I got to the 30-mile point, I was over 300 ounces of fluid in. Because I had a Camelback, which was 70,
Yeah.
and then I had 2 front pouches, which were 15 each, and I went through that 3 times
Wow.
by that point.
Yeah.
And there was also another one where I consumed both front ones in that time as well. So and drinking at the aid stations,
Yeah.
so well over 300 ounces.
Is that? I mean, I'm sure you need water. Obviously, is that
Yeah.
too much or is it
No,
No?
nowhere near.
really?
And so I kind of fell apart in the next
Mhm.
section. The next section was 11 miles.
Yeah.
I started that next session at like 1:30 or 2.
Yeah.
And heat of the day, it was 96 degrees
Oh my
outside.
gosh. Yeah.
And I kind of fell apart during the first 5 miles. First 2 miles of that next session went really good.
Mhm.
And my brother-in-law, Troy, was with me to pace me in that section.
Mhm.
And I kind of just died.
Wow.
At 5 miles, I laid down and he massaged my legs
Wow.
on the trail. It's 11 miles completely unsupported.
Mhm.
You have to get the next 11 miles.
Yeah.
There's no roads to the trail anywhere in there.
Wow.
There's no ATV
You
trails.
have to get there,
Nothing. You have to get to the next checkpoint.
Mm-hmm.
And then I ended up getting to a mile and a half left, a very slow mile and
Yeah.
a half, or to that mile and a half left. And then my sister and my girlfriend came in,
Mm-hmm.
and they met me with some extra fluids. And then my sister and brother-in-law helped carry me off.
Wow.
I ended up going to the ER. And
Really?
yeah, I was in
Oh
the
my
ER
gosh.
for about 6 hours, and then I moved to just another room, and it was
Uh-huh.
on fluids for another
Yeah.
10 hours.
Wow.
But that was it was an interesting weekend for sure.
Seriously.
I want to do Troy and I are going to do a quick little podcast,
Uh-huh.
like maybe 10 minutes, 20 minutes
And talk about
the
it.
whole thing
Oh my gosh.
and how I turned into a ghost.
Mm-hmm.
I weighed like 180, between 180 to 185,
Yeah.
and I was under 160 without a doubt.
That's insane.
Yeah, I lost my Garmin watch tells me it kind of like estimated sweat loss and activity.
Yeah.
And it said 12,000 milliliters.
That's crazy.
Which is like
that's dangerous.
It's like 28 pounds.
That's insane. And that's never happened before. I mean,
not that bad.
No.
But the thing was, like, I thought I was doing really good. Mm-hmm. I was like, oh man, I'm sweating, you know. And you always hear, right. If you're dehydrated, you stop sweating. Well, I think I doubt any like real scientists will listen to this, but all I can think is that my body was taking in water and instantly sweating it.
Oh yeah.
And not processing it any other way because I went into rhabdo, I went into kidney failure. My CK and potassium levels were through the roof. Yeah. When I got to the ER, and I was cramping. I went through a 30 to 45 minute period, and it's kind of foggy because I was so out of it.
Oh yeah.
I stayed positive the whole time, but I got convinced to go to the hospital, and my legs were my quads on both sides were completely cramped. Yeah. For a 30 to 45 minute period where like I couldn't stretch them. I couldn't move, get rid of the cramp at all.
That's crazy.
Until the fluids kicked in. So
and they just had an IV and you just
and it took a while to get the IV going at the doctor because they wanted to make sure they were doing everything right. So they took blood. So they took fluid from me, and then about 45 minutes later I actually got an IV, and it was almost instant relief, but they put 5 IV bags into me.
That's crazy.
It was nuts, but
wow.
Yeah, it was a good time. It was still a good time.
Yeah.
I enjoyed
almost all of it.
I enjoyed almost all of it. There's only about a half hour where I was truly like, I think I might die.
Yeah. Well, I mean, 28 pounds. I mean, I'm sure that there's
a lot.
When you're delusional, you're like, I don't know.
Yeah, and I can show you, like, you can obviously see what I look like now, up about 20 pounds. But this was me. This was me on the way to the hospital.
That's crazy.
And it was bad. But like ultimately it's fine.
Yeah, that's like wow. 28 pounds.
Yeah, but
is that common? I mean, do you see that happen to people?
It happens to people often.
In a race like that, like 56 miles is, like, it's no joke, you know. And so
yeah, and like I dropped out last year at the exact same checkpoint. Yeah. Last year was because my knees were wrecked. And I had some insane blisters. Yeah. This year, my knees were better trained. My feet were better trained. So neither of those were a problem. Yeah. But it's definitely common, even like the best ultra runners out there. Like, they'll be super prepared for a race. They'll get, say, 60 miles into a 100-mile race, which they've done many times before. And then they're using fuel that is proven for them. And then their stomach just takes a turn. Yeah. And they just start throwing everything up.
Wow. And then you have nothing in you, and then you still
and then you can't do it. And so, no, it is common for your body just to flip on you like that. Yeah. And I think that's just kind of what happened, is it just flipped.
That's crazy.
But this is not about me, it's about you. No, it would ultimately, I still say it's the closest to death I've ever been. Yeah. But it's still a positive experience.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I can't imagine that. I think that what's like, because I've always been curious. I mean, what does kind of the training look like going into one of those?
So I've approached it 2 ways now. I ultimately say that this training method this year was better. Yeah.
And is it like an annual thing that you try to do? I mean, one a year?
Well, so a year ago, this past weekend a year ago was my first attempt. Okay. And this race was the first race I ever tried.
It sounds like it's...
And it was bad, probably. Yeah, and so ended up dropping last year. And I think I overtrained for my ability at the time because my knees weren't strong enough, my feet weren't strong enough, everything like that. So when I went for a big effort, it wasn't where it needed to be. Yeah. I was doing like several... 3, 4, 5, maybe up to 10-mile runs, like many times throughout the week. So I was doing like 70 to 80-mile weeks. Yeah.
But this year, you do it straight.
Yeah. And so this year I was doing between 20 to 50-mile weeks, but on a Saturday I would do 32 miles, where I would start with like my biggest day of this year was I started the day with a 10-mile ruck, if you know what that is. It's like a weighted pack. It's kind of a military thing. But they have these things they make called a rucksack. You just put a weighted plate in there.
Yeah.
And you just walk. You can't run with it, but
Yeah.
I went for like a 10-mile ruck in the morning, and then I went for a 22-mile run in the afternoon. And so that was my biggest training day.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it was the better training for me. So lower mileage months overall and weeks, but with much bigger efforts in the mix. And so take like 4 days off of running and then do.
You kind of have to.
Yeah. And so it worked.
I
like my body felt great in the sense of how I was taking the beating of the trail. And like for a runner, I'm pretty strong. And so like going up hills and stuff like that has always been pretty easy for me.
Yeah.
It was just once cramps set in that I couldn't do anything.
It's kind of hard to get through a cramp. I mean,
and
there's not much you can do.
From like 5 miles to 9 miles, every step was a cramp.
Wow.
Every single step was that the muscle being used in that moment was a cramp. It wasn't just like being hit. It was a full out cramp.
Yeah.
But it was kind of crazy.
Yeah. That's insane. And I'm sure you want to do another one. I mean,
yeah, I do. I'm not convinced I want to do that one again yet. Everybody else said you got to conquer it. I'm like, we'll see.
Yeah. I think you will.
Probably. But right now I'm just kind of like, that's kind of scary.
Yeah.
A little bit of fear thinking about that, just that same 11-mile stretch, but you can bring it back too. So like one thing I've always been interested about skiing that we don't have around here is kind of backcountry skiing.
Oh yeah.
Have you ever done that before?
Yeah, it's fun. I think that it's something that it's kind of hard to I mean, unless you're doing like one thing I do want to do at some point is helicopter skiing, where they just drop you off of a helicopter at the top of the mountain and you kind of make your way down. Because there's no trails. You kind of just find stuff, and you kind of have to like, when it comes to like helicopter skiing, like I think the coolest part about it is like you have to know the mountain really well because I mean at that elevation, like if you do some stuff wrong, like you can cause avalanches, like you can really get seriously hurt, and so I think that's a unique aspect of it, and I think just like being somewhere that's like untouched, like
for
is
sure,
something that's super cool. And for me, kind of the extent of any backcountry stuff is either stuff that's not on a resort that you can kind of drive to and like make your way to the bottom, hop in a pickup truck, go back up, kind of make different routes all day is something that I've done. Or stuff on resorts that, is not marked as trails, and stuff that I've done. And a lot of that's really fun. Like I know Steamboat, Colorado, like it's one of the biggest ski resorts, and their backcountry stuff is pretty insane because it's a huge, like, Steamboat area is huge for snowmobiling. And so a lot of that stuff that, is close to the resort is, backcountry accessible. And I've never done, what I do want to do as well is, like, some people will hike with skis wherever they want. Yeah. And end up, like, just, finding a way down. I haven't done that yet. That's something that I do want to get into. But I think that, I don't know, like, there's not a lot of things that are more fun, I should say, than, like, you and some of your buddies. And, like, you're kind of just playing follow the leader. And, no one really knows where they're going. And you're kind of just making it up as you go. It's something that is super, super,
that's super
fun.
Badass.
Yeah, it's cool. And a lot of times, though, sometimes, like, I'll go with my brother or something, and he's a super good skier. And so he'll do some stuff, and he'll, like, make up some trails, and I'm just like, dude, like, that's a lot. Yeah. And it's hard to follow him, but so I'll kind of find a different route sometimes. But
what is the age difference between your brother?
He's 18 months, so he's about a year and a half older than me, and he goes to school down in Gunnison, Colorado, and that's kind of just a little mountain town. A lot of cool stuff around there, and so and so he plays college football as well.
Oh, right on.
A Division II down there in Colorado, and so and he's in an NBA program as well, and so and then I have a younger sister who is she's not in school, but she works at a bank. She's killing it. So
there you go.
Yeah.
So you and your brother, I guess you haven't really said anything about your sister besides that, but obviously you guys have very similar paths. Have you guys always been super close?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean the three of us have always just been like super, super tight. And I think that I've learned, a lot of really cool stuff from my brother, and because we've done such similar paths, I've kind of got to see the way that he navigates it and the way that he, goes about his stuff in the same fields. And so being able to do some of the things that he did and not do some of the things that he did has been something that's been super like beneficial to me. And I think that like we kind of have all the same interests. Every single thing we do is, pretty much the same, hang out with the same peeps and all that. So it's been fun,
Would you kind of consider you guys selves a little bit dirtbags in a sense, or not like not full out, but
a little bit? Yeah, I think. I mean, when it comes to like outdoors, like I think over the 4th, the 3 of us went camping, and it was just like middle of nowhere, and no one for miles, and we just had a tent in Coleman, and and so that was fun. And he, I think, does a lot more of that than I do, but I think that there's something about it, like, and you've experienced it, like in the Boundary Waters, like just really like dirt bagging it, like I think it's a good time. Like
I completely agree. I love traveling. I don't know, like I would love to get like an adventure rig at some point or something like that. I just have call it the all-terrain Accord. It's just a simple Accord, but I love just driving somewhere, and whether it's a climbing trip, whether it's a hunting, going out to the sand hills that are just south of town here, or going out with my dog to Medora to do some training runs. I just love the outdoors. It's awesome. I'm more of like the camping, climbing, hiking than I am like fishing or hunting, but I love it also.
Yeah. And so you climb as well?
Yep.
Yeah.
We're in a Fargo climbing shirt. There you go. Yeah. Maybe Chris will come on the podcast at some point. But it's one of my friends that just started a gym in town here.
Okay.
But definitely love climbing. It's something that I got into in the last like kind of 2-3 years. Actually, more or less with COVID. Yeah. I was living out in Ohio, and it's a lot more outdoor climbing is a lot more accessible there.
Yeah.
You can do it more year round, but also it's like a 45-minute drive to good outdoor climbing. Yeah. And then like a 3-hour drive to like really good outdoor climbing. Some stuff out in like West Virginia.
Oh, I bet they have some cool stuff. Yeah.
Really cool. It's along the New River Gorge. And then you come to this little, it's like a little bar and grill right before the climbing spot, or they call it the Craig. And it's called Bikes, Beers, and Tacos.
That sounds
and it's a bike shop, bar, and a taco shop. And it's a pretty cool little spot. And they have goats all around. And you can bring your van there to camp. And they have like community campfires every night with all the campers. It's a really cool spot. Yeah. That was like one of the coolest outdoor spots I've ever been to. But yeah, I definitely love basically everything about the outdoors. Going on, like being so close to your siblings, do you think that like choosing the similar, like going into football or playing football was like influenced by your brother?
I think that was both of our goals growing up. I think that's something that we both, really wanted to do. And it was something that also paid for school, you know what I mean?
True. And
so that was something that, in the back of our heads, it was like, all right, hey, like, this isn't just for us. Like, we got to be able to do this for our family. And so he obviously, committed to play college football first. He's older. And so seeing him, and he really, he enjoyed it his freshman year. And I was like, all right, well, there's assurance that, this is something I want to do. And I think that, like I previously mentioned, like North Dakota was my only offer. And so it made the decision pretty easy, which I think is sometimes a blessing, because when you're 17, 18 years old, it's like it's the biggest decision of your life, like choosing where you go to school. And so you see it a lot now, like especially with the transfer portal and, guys going to 4 or 5 different schools in 4 years. I think that, God is good, and I'm super fortunate that UND was a really good fit. All 4 years, I think that I've had successes, challenges, everything in between. And so, I don't know. I think that, something that, to answer your question, I guess, is I think that it was in a little bit, influenced by one another. And, as growing up and loving the game, like, we played sports our whole lives. And so for a while, I wasn't sure, like, what I wanted to do in college. But I'm glad and I'm super fortunate that it was football.
Okay. Right on.
Yeah.
No, that's the nice thing about like having similar thought processes and a very close relationship with your brother is like everything he does wrong, you can just learn from it.
Yeah, I know.
And you don't have to go
vice versa.
have to go through that mistakes, you know, because he is a year older, year and a half older, and you could let him make those mistakes, and you don't have to.
Yeah, exactly.
And I would say me and my sister, we're about the similar separation, and she's the older one too. I could definitely agree with that. We are quite different in a lot of ways, but I would definitely think that would be similar as being able to learn from her mistakes and
100%.
like things that she did that I did much different, or things I did the same because of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, and we're still very close. Like her husband works right there in that office.
Awesome.
So
that's good to have it.
But yeah, it's a pretty good relationship, and definitely learn from what she does wrong. Coming into school, did you want to go to college for football, or did you want to go to college for college?
I think I wanted to go for football. I think that football was always something, you know, I was super passionate about. And the first, I guess, so my freshman year, you get here, and then kind of our schedule and how it shakes out is like you got about 3 weeks in the dorms with all the other freshmen on the football team, and then fall camp hits. And fall camp was like, you know, something that I hadn't gone through before. And fall camp's like, it's a grind. I mean, you know, it's a month of football, film, meetings, more football, weights, running, you know,
what's
everything
the day
in
look
between.
like?
So we start Wednesday. And so I guess a typical day of camp is like 7 a.m. walkthrough. And then, you know, you have like time to go get some food from the nutrition room, stuff like that. And then training room opens at probably 8, 8:30, 8:45 special teams meeting. And then 9 o'clock you're on the field. That goes till about 11. Then you have lunch, 1 meetings, 1:30 lift. And then like 4 or 5, you have more meetings, and then dinner, and then you got more meetings. And so now it's about 7:38, and then you got walkthroughs. You're done at about 9. And so
that's how many weeks of that?
It's 28 days.
Okay, so
and so we do like 4 days on, 1 day off. So it's 4 days, and then you get a break. So it's a grind. I mean, it's something that, especially freshman year, you're like, wow, like this is college ball, huh? So
but that's pre-school, right?
Yeah. So there's no school going on.
Okay.
So it's solely football. So because I was in a summer class, and it ended Friday. So that's super fortunate that you don't have to balance school with it. But yeah, I mean, you can't really do much else.
So it's basically 9 to 9 every day.
Yeah, essentially.
When you talk about meetings, like I'm familiar with like film and maybe strategy, but like what else do you guys meet about? Like, do you meet about, like, I can see of a whoop. Is that from yourself, or is that
this is mine? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I wish that
that'd be so
on the
cool.
team had these.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know some places do it. I was talking with one of my strength coaches, and he was at Iowa for a little bit, I think it was. And he said that each player kind of had one. And it was kind of cool how they did this. They like, based on, because these tell like strain, you know, every kind of thing in between. I'm sure yours does as well. And
yeah. I used to have a whoop too, so I know like everything that it goes through.
And so all that data it has, like they had it where everyone on the team wore something like this. I don't know if it was a whoop, but they measured and they got a bunch of data from like the season and like games, and from that they basically found out like to play a full football game, 4 quarters, and play well and effectively, and you know, not be injured and everything in between. They found like the numbers and like the baseline numbers that people needed to hit during the week to be like fully prepared for the game. And so like they measured everyone's like practices, lifts, running, and like basically on a strain spectrum. And so based on that, like every position was a little different. So for example, receivers, like if they on Wednesday of that week, if they hit their strain output, like they were done for the week. Like they would just kind of just do walk-through stuff. Like they wouldn't really go full sprinting at all. But if it's Friday and you're not at your strain output, It's extra routes after practice. It's some extra, whatever. And so they basically they got all these guys to hit these certain numbers based on their positions. And I think it worked pretty well. I'm not positive, but
I would love to see the data.
So would I.
I love data.
Yeah.
That's why ultimately I switched from Whoop to this Garmin watch, is because you get a little bit more.
Yeah.
And you still get, it's all worded differently. It's not called strain, but it's called stress, you know?
Yeah.
And your measured output.
Yeah.
And so,
I want to know what it was on that run.
On the run?
Yeah.
So we can do for relative effort.
Yeah.
I go to Strava for that.
Okay.
And I'll have to turn my internet on here because Strava gives you. Are you familiar with Strava?
Mm-mm.
It's kind of like a social media for runners, cyclists. I mean, swimmers, and it gives you a lot of relative data.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was 39.78 miles, and a relative effort of 585, and that's all subjective of the app around that time. And so it says significantly higher than average, and if I went for a 5 mile run at an 8:30 to 9 minute pace, it'd probably give me a 120, and
so that scale it looks like it tops out at 600. Is that right?
No, so it could that's actually a good question. I wonder,
just because that bar looks super far up there.
Well, I've also never seen it above 500, so
that's crazy.
Let's see if it has an info.
Yeah.
If it does top out at something, and it's all relative off of the past few months.
Yeah. And does that calculate that just based on heart rate being above a certain number for a certain period of time?
It doesn't look like it says what the max is.
Yeah.
But it measures on your past 3 months of exercise.
Okay. Gotcha.
And so if you have done really high efforts, and so I don't know, I won't pull it up, but I had a 300 on a 22 mile run a couple weeks ago.
Okay.
It wasn't exactly 300, but it was around there. And so that's pretty high too.
Yeah.
So an average runs between 100 to 150, I think. And so anytime you get over 2, it's a pretty good workout.
Yeah. 589.
Yeah, that's pretty high. And
yeah.
My estimated sweat loss, like I said before, was 12,000 milliliters, and usually it doesn't get above this is a 48 ounce Nalgene.
Yeah.
And usually it doesn't get above 2,000 liters on a run. And so 12 is nuts.
That's a lot.
But it's also over 13 hours of being outside in the sun on a 96 degree day.
Yeah. And then there's one coming up in Colorado. I think it's the Leadville Ultra.
Yeah. Level 100.
Sounds crazy. Yeah.
That one, and it is a crazy run. Kind of just being I love watching.
Yeah.
I don't like watching sports. I get very bored.
Yeah.
But I love keeping up with highlights of sports.
Yeah.
And so keeping up, I follow the highlights of ultra running pretty well. And Leadville 100 is one of the biggest races because it's kind of iconic.
Yeah.
And it's one of the earlier races. Yeah. And Leadville is insane, but then you only get over 14,000 feet once or twice in the race. And there's one called the Hard Rock 100, which is in Wyoming, and almost that entire race is there. Above 14,000.
That's crazy.
And that, don't quote me, but it's something like that, and it's significantly harder. But I was talking with Tyler here today, one of the sales guys, and he's like, how'd you do 30 miles? That's insane. I was like, it's all relative. Because I think I was kind of something happened with my nutrition that day. And it kind of, something in me gave up on me. And so I don't feel bad about dropping. Last year I felt terrible, and I was instantly I'm going back.
Yeah.
Because I did not give it my best foot forward. And something gave up on me this time inside. But there's the 100-mile world record is a 6:38 pace.
It's crazy.
Insane. And so relatively it doesn't seem like anything big.
Yeah.
And you think about Leadville, I'm like, oh, it's just it's this hard mountain race, but like there's Hard Rock, which is like significantly harder. Or like I think like, oh, this race was 96 degrees this past weekend. Well, there's the Badwater in California that the average temperature is like 120.
Yeah.
And so it's 135 miles.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, I kind of feel like a
and
wuss.
Something like that, like there's something that's just ridiculous about every single one.
Yeah.
You know.
100%.
You know, and regardless of where it is or what's going on, like something is going to happen in those that's like, all right, this is insane, whether it's heat or elevation or anything. I remember I went on, so you get, like, I get gassed when I go skiing because you're at like 10,000 feet kind of the whole time. Legs are burning and everything. But to run above like 14,000 feet for X amount of time, like that's something that you'd have to train there for a long time, like to be able to like crush that race.
And like one of the racers I follow in ultras is Courtney DeWalter, and like she's like kind of like the best woman right now in ultra running, and they debated as if she is the best ultra runner because like she did a 250-mile race and she beat everyone, not just women. She beat all the men too, by 8 or 10 hours.
Wow.
And so like I remember hearing a story of she finished, went showered, ate, went to bed, woke up, and then came and watched the second place guy come in.
That's gotta be.
And it's like, that's nuts.
No. Yeah.
It also brings up like a cool conversation of like, are women better at like these insane distances of going like over 200 miles? Is the female body better prepared for that?
Yeah.
Or to suffer? I don't know.
Right. I mean, because when someone is running a 250-mile race, like no one in there is a slouch.
No,
you can't be.
No,
you know what I mean. Like otherwise, like you can die. Like 250 miles, and so I mean, she's not racing against normal dudes
for sure.
But
man, it is kind of funny. You look at some of the crowds that start and finish some of these ultras, and it's like, you're a runner.
Yeah.
Like, are you serious?
Yeah.
You do not look like a runner. And like obviously I'm not like this super tiny build of a ultra runner, but like, and I know that does definitely affect my performance out there and makes me expend more energy than like a 120-pound person. Yeah. Which would be kind of nice, but
I think of like running. Like Goggins.
Yeah, for sure.
He's not built like a runner, I don't think.
No, and he is definitely a little bit leaner and slimmer build, but he's still big. He's still strong. Yeah. Which definitely probably helps at some sense of your joints not breaking down.
That's fair.
But it could also be like, no, your joints should break down more because you have that extra weight.
Yeah.
And so I guess it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think living in a place like Colorado and having the opportunity, like especially in the foothills of Colorado, would be so cool because you can go to like the lower elevation of like Denver, Boulder, and maybe have like some really cool road races, or you could go up into the mountains just west of Boulder and get some amazing trail running, skiing, hunting. I don't know. I think that'd be such a cool place to live.
Yeah. Well, and that's why, I mean, so many people are moving there.
Yeah.
It's getting pretty wild, but.
Which is nuts.
It is, yeah. And so, I mean, I don't blame them.
No.
Like, I'm always like, oh, like, all these people moving into the state. It's not my state, first of all. Second of all, I don't, I can't be mad at them. It's like, you're coming to an amazing spot. Like, yeah, I'm glad you are. I'm glad you're not staying, wherever. But, you just have so much access to so many different things. And I think coming from that to Grand Forks, I was like, wow, what am I supposed to do with myself kind of thing. So, but I mean, I was able to, just kind of put my head down and do school and football and stuff like that. So I think that was nice. But I don't know. I think that, like, is Colorado somewhere you'd ever want to live?
Oh yeah, I would much rather live in Colorado than Fargo.
Yeah.
But I think it's a conversation down the road. Just especially, I like being part of this company. Like, we're a year and a half old, and so we've grown crazy already, and only gonna get bigger. At some point, hopefully, move somewhere else. I would love to, like, Missoula. I think would be an awesome place to live. And like, if my boss's wife listens to this, she'd be so mad. She hates the Missoula conversation. I was
She
like, we
against
should
it?
start a Missoula office. Everybody would love it.
Yeah.
And she's like, no, Ty, go home. But it's whatever. No, I think that would be like an ideal location. Because I do like the frigid cold too. I don't know.
Yeah.
The seasons are fun.
And that's something that, like, I think about places like Arizona or stuff like that where it's beautiful. But I don't think I could do without the cold.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think just like, I mean, for you, it's like growing up in the like cold, like that coming
Very
up
cold.
here. Like it was like my first winter here. I remember I was like, I don't know, like it was October 1st and it blizzarded. Like it was like 13 inches, and I was like, this is crazy. And then it didn't melt till May, and I was like, wow, like
what the hell?
what did I get myself into? But man, it's so funny, you know, when I go home and I get to tell kind of stories about like how cold it was to some of my family, or I send my buddies like weather reports, like where we're getting up for winter workouts and it's negative 58 degrees, and I'm just like, this is crazy. But
when I was applying to grad schools, and I had a phone interview scheduled for Ohio State with the girl who was actually my advisor. She was like, "Yeah, it was one of the first times we've canceled school." She was like, "It's too cold," and this would have been winter of 19.
yeah,
it was super cold. That would have been probably your first year at UND.
Yep.
When it got down to like negative 70 actual temp.
That.
She was like, "Yeah, we had to cancel school today because it got down to negative 5." And I was like, "Oh yeah, I was student teaching at the time." And I was like, "We also canceled school for 2 days, but it's actual temp of negative 70."
Yeah, you will die if you go outside.
Yeah. And she was like, "Oh my God."
Yeah.
And she's from Missouri. And so even like a warmer place in Ohio, she's like, "That's nuts. You guys are stupid."
Yeah. Like, why do you live there?
Yeah. And it's just crazy. But living in Ohio was kind of cool too, because like it was nice to experience a winter where it only gets down to 10. It's like, oh, it's still cold.
Yeah. But it's not like I can be outside.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like I can, you know,
which was kind of nice. But
yeah, because there's some times that you're walking outside and it's like you got class and you get hit with that wind and you're like, I don't know if I can do it. I don't know if I'm going to class.
Every time I go to Grand Forks or UND, there's that bridge that goes over the train tracks. Is that right?
Yep.
That super long bridge.
Yeah.
And that's a pretty common bridge for students to walk on, right?
Yeah. So if you live like that, there's a huge apartment complex right there. So people walk to campus from there, and it gets brutal on top of that bridge.
That's what I thought one time, because I dropped Jaxson off. He lived at that apartment for a bit. And I was like, this would be so awful to walk on.
Yeah.
And I was like, whatever, props to you guys, I guess. But no, we have like the 12th Avenue Bridge here by campus. And most people don't walk on that, but some people do. And I'm like, that would be nuts.
Yeah, I mean, and then same case there. It's like, you know, you're finding a way to get home. Like if you know, you got to take the bus, Yeah. There are certain times where it's like you can't walk outside. I remember you'll get like the emails and it's like, don't let your skin be exposed for 5 minutes or you'll get frostbite.
Sure.
But
no, it's pretty wild up here. One thing I was curious about though, so like you had these kind of outlets in growing up in, like, say, high school and your younger years. Were you always from Colorado?
Yeah.
Okay, born and raised.
Yep.
So you always had like that outdoors. But when you moved to North Dakota, you didn't really have that as much. But you had football, where it took up way more of your time than high school football did, or high school sports, or I would assume at least. And then also college, which is a little more intense than high school.
Yeah.
Some ways it's not, because you're not in school for 8 hours a day.
That's true.
But you're a little bit more into harder classes.
Yeah.
But do you think that football filled that time that you didn't have in the outdoors and kind of took over for that part of your life? Or do you think you were always kind of missing something?
I think it absolutely did. I think that, I mean, you're not, like you said, you're not in school for 8 hours a day, but you still have consistent football stuff kind of all day, year round. So I think that it did fill that. I think that there were certain times where, you know, free time was you have free time still.
Yeah.
I never want to make it sound like boot camp because it's, it's not. But I don't know. I think that it really did. And then I think that COVID was kind of the first time where I was like, I have nothing to do. Like COVID hit, and it was like, I remember it was March and we went home for spring break. And then there was like, all of a sudden it was like a complete standstill. Football, we still had classes, everything was online.
Yep.
And all the teachers were adjusting to it. So it was like rare if you had homework, like, cause they had never, like, it was such a huge shift for everything. And so that was probably the first time where I was like, I have like nothing to do. You know what I mean? So, obviously started working and stuff, and that filled it too, but still, I don't know. I mean, not having that football responsibility was something that was super odd.
Yeah.
It was really odd.
I feel like that's COVID shutdown is what got me into ultra running.
Really?
Like the longer, I was like, oh, let's see if I can run 100 miles this month. Oh, let's see if I can run 200 miles this month. And that's like, some people do that in a race in like one day. Yeah. But like for me, that was something completely new. Yeah. And I was like, I remember training in 2019 for a half marathon. I did 42 miles in a month. And I was like, that's freaking nuts. Yeah. And then I remember I called it the 25 days of Christmas. Yeah. I did 4 miles every day over that 25 days. And I was like, that's nuts. How could I do that? Yeah. And it slowly just builds, whatever. And like, that doesn't seem like anything crazy to me anymore. Yeah. But as soon as COVID shutdown happened, like I worked at a CrossFit gym, still do, but the one in Ohio, they're like, coaches, feel free to take equipment home if you want to, because we can't. We didn't open up for 3 months. Wow. Whereas like, because COVID was a lot more serious in Columbus than it was in North Dakota. Yeah. So it's kind of weird. If you think between like, I don't know if you ever go to the Twin Cities at all. Like it was a lot more serious in Minnesota than it was.
And like Denver, it was a lot more serious as well.
Or even probably East Grand Forks compared to Grand Forks. Yeah. It was probably more locked down. Yeah. But we were definitely locked down, and it was one of those things like, well, one of the things we could do is climb. Yeah. And so that's kind of when I got into outdoor climbing, is because I was like, oh, stimulus check. Oh, climbing gear. Yeah. And so I was like, let's go outside. Yeah. And so that was definitely... that boredom definitely hit right away. And I was like, holy shit. Yeah. This sucks. Yeah. And then ended up finding ways to fill it.
Well, thankfully, I mean, I think that like that boredom could go one or two ways, and one being never doing anything. Yeah. And two, getting into stuff. Like if you didn't start running those 2 miles a day. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so that's something that, I don't know, sometimes like I'll look back on something and I'm just so thankful that like there was a little motivation to get outside. Yeah, for sure. You know what I mean? Because then it's like those baby steps turn into, you just ran Medora. You know what I mean? Yeah,
for sure. No, and that's something you can see. Like COVID was a big flip for people, that a lot of people either went from either they dove into like a fitness journey. Yeah. And a lot of people stuck with it. Yeah. What a lot more than I thought did. Or people like hunker down inside and like, I cannot talk to people, I cannot see anyone ever again. Like that's crazy. Yeah. And it was like, you definitely saw, and it's like a lot of things, a lot of people are separated on their beliefs now. Absolutely. But it was pretty wild. It's something that none of us have really ever experienced before. Yeah. What is for you, what was it like going into COVID schooling, and what was it? So I know throughout the rest of my program at Ohio State, it stayed online pretty much the whole time. We had one class that I TA'd for that was in person again, but everything else was online. How was the rest of your schooling been? Is it back in person mostly now? And
well, so it was definitely a weird adjustment, like going from, fully in person to fully online. But I feel like, I don't know, I feel like at the college level, they have enough resources and they have enough money to make it make sense. My sister, she was in high school during it, and high school is not meant to be online. No, whatsoever. Definitely not. I think college, it works. It's fine. Yep. They've been doing college online for a long while, but I don't know. Like I just felt terrible for her at a high school level, because I was like, none of the high school events you always think about, like homecoming, football games, whatever, like all that was chalked. And then to have to go to like online class, like in high school, is like that makes no sense. So, but I think for college, it was like something that was pretty, like, they acclimated it pretty well, at least at UND.
Yeah.
It was something that was seemed pretty seamless. They kind of just did everything on Zoom. And I think for a while there was kind of an adjustment period where it was weird. And like all the tests being online, like it was,
That was odd.
Yeah.
For sure.
So I think that now, I mean, in the MBA program, everything's fully online.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something that I don't know how I feel about it yet. I've only done one course so far.
Okay.
But I feel like it is something at like a grad school program, I think is something that you kind of want, at least for me, it's like I kind of want it in person.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't really have that option. And I think it makes it nicer for a lot of people, though, that can just stay at home. Like they don't live in North Dakota, and they can still get a degree from home. So I think it's nice for them. And so it makes sense. But I don't know, like if I had to choose one or the other, though, I think that it would definitely be in person.
I 100% agree. And like my whole background's education. Like my undergrad was in ag education, my master's in ag education.
Yeah.
And so one was more towards like high school students, one was towards adult learning.
Yeah.
But then I also have had this like passion of exercise and coaching. And so I did a specialty at Ohio State in coaching as like sport coaching. And like everything when it's switched to online was like seamless in my program. It was awesome, except for my coaching course. And it was the teacher was like, okay, we will not meet the rest of the semester. Like once it was established.
It's a coaching course. Like that's
yeah,
hard to...
it was nuts. And it was a great class.
Yeah.
But like what I said was one of my best teachers of all time pre-COVID. And then he sent us an email when it was basically like, we will not be going back to class in person when everything switched to Zoom. He said, we will not meet the rest of the semester. You have a test on this day. You have a test on this day. Everything is in the book.
That's awful.
I was so mad.
Yeah. Well, you're a teacher. Like, how are you about to just...
And he always talks so highly about how like I love teaching, I love coaching. This is my passion. I want to train coaches. But like you're not doing Zoom.
No.
Like you're not
teaching or coaching.
It's a discussion-based course, and we had these awesome discussions. It was also like during BLM, a lot of that stuff at the same time, and so we had great discussions on race in the classes as well. And then he was like, "No more, we're done."
Interesting.
I was like, "This guy."
Yeah.
But
wow, that's something. Yeah, I mean, I had a few teachers that when it is fully online, it's you can't go talk to them. All the stuff's recorded. A lot of like some of like my asynchronous classes, like all the lectures are pre-recorded, and I think makes it hard because it's like
awful. I think
it also makes it hard to justify it being that expensive.
For sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
Like to kind of sit there and for your sake, it's like, all right, here's our tests and here's our other test. Everything else it's in the book. Like, have fun. It's like, and you're paying for it. It's like, well, this seems a little unreasonable. But
one of the things I think about is like, I have no problem paying for school.
Yeah.
Like I have a lot of loans. Like I didn't get as many scholarships as I would have liked coming out of high school. I didn't play sports in college. I took out loans like the average student does. But I'm like, I wanted that elevated status. I was like, I was willing to pay for it and take out the loans. And it was an in-person. All my 4 years of undergrad was in person. Love the experience. Ag at NDSU is obviously well established. They have a good facilities, and so paying the money seemed fine to me. It costs a lot for all that stuff. When you think about like a master's degree, like say from the University of Phoenix, they have like that everybody knows about like University of Phoenix online schooling you can do in like a year and a half or however long it is. And it's like super cheap. I like that makes sense. Online schooling should be significantly cheaper, especially if you're having like one class has 200 students in it online. There's no reason that it can't be cheap.
No.
I think that would be like for business school, at least from my point of view. Obviously, like I've never been to business school. I've never been in business school debates and stuff like that. It seems like a perfectly feasible way to do a 4-year degree.
No, I agree 100%. But I think that a big part of it too is like when everything did shift, like they couldn't really, everyone that was already there, for me at least, like I'm halfway through my degree.
Yep.
And so, like if it was something like, oh, we're not going to drop prices because
well, yeah, and that's
you're already
understandable
halfway
too.
through and stuff. But
I think it's a way to like add options moving forward.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's something that, whether, you know, these in-person degrees are more highly sought after than like University of Phoenix it is. But I don't know. I just think that there are certain points where even right now, like in like an MBA, it's like I want hands-on learning and hands-on teaching and you know, actually being like in it. And I think that so my brother, he's in a MBA program now. It's called like outdoor recreation, which is sweet. Like it's right up your alley. And so what it is like they it's basically like an MBA centered around like business sustainability. And so it's a relatively new program. I think it's like 3 or 4 years old, but all their stuff is like fully in person because it kind of has to be. Like it's all there like in Gunnison, right in the mountains. And they have a bunch of cool like stuff that they do like outside of the school. And so for example, right now he did an internship where he works with like these small startup businesses, and one of them was like ski wax is like not good for the environment. And so this brand was building and kind of trying to create like sustainable ski wax. Okay. And so he got to like work with them a little bit, do some marketing stuff, and just like a bunch of super cool stuff like that. And his is like, that's one where it has to be hands-on.
For sure.
You know, and for like a super, like mine, like the MBA I'm in is pretty general. Like it's not like, you know, you're in your accounting and your management and your, you know, all that kind of stuff. So it's not like you're doing a bunch of like external projects, but so, I mean, it makes sense. Like it can be online, but for his, it's like, I don't know, like places like Patagonia or North Face will like send reps here. Cause like it is like sustainability is the future, you know,
for sure,
especially in business. And you see, you know, businesses trying to eliminate carbon footprint and, you know, try to get on that path. So,
well, one company that like you would not, like Patagonia. Yeah. Everybody would think, like I pointed to my head because you're wearing a Patagonia hat. But like Patagonia, obviously they want to be sustainable. Yeah. And they make it super transparent. One other company that like you're also wearing, Black Rifle. Yeah. Like I'm a huge coffee nerd. Yeah. Mostly because of them. And then I also like kind of did a deep dive into coffee during quarantine. Yeah. And so now I'm like a major coffee nerd. But as the last episode of this showed with Dex, but like Black Rifle Coffee, they have like these afterburners on their coffee roasters, so they're not adding to pollution in like say Salt Lake City, one of their roasteries, and so they're super clean. But they also have a huge passion for the outdoors, and a lot of people probably see them as like a super right-leaning company when they're just a company, right? Exactly. And when you say sustainability is the future, like that's the future should be the future for everyone. Yeah. And because it makes everybody's lives better, both people and like nature. Yeah. You know, so it definitely should be something that is like more targeted for people, I think. Yeah. No, I definitely agree. I saw something and it was like, I think that they do like, at least Colorado, for example, like they do a super good job, you know, maintaining like nature. I think that all these small mountain towns, like it's kind of cool. Like over the 4th of July, we were in Crested Butte, and it was the first time I saw like multiple full recycling bins. Okay. Like just on the street. Yeah. Like everyone was like packed full, and it was like the right stuff were in the right spots, and it was like 6 or 7 like different trash cans. That's awesome. And so they do a super good job of that. And I saw that this guy, he was talking about like, we do such a good job at preserving stuff like that we think is like natural, which it is natural. So, you know, national parks, stuff like that. But he was talking about like, we don't pay any mind to preserving what's like directly in front of us, like the cities we live in, like the places we live in, like, because we think that like we don't have to, you know what I mean? But when you're in a national park, it's like, oh, you have to be clean and you got to be this, but it's like, you have to do that everywhere. Yeah. And that's something I've, you know, found a little bit of like guiltiness in, because it's like,
I'm way more conscious if I'm outdoors than if I'm just on the street.
Well, I bet you're way more conscious in Colorado than you are in Grand Forks.
100%. Yeah, because I think even Grand Forks, like, we don't have a recycling bin, like, at our house.
No.
Like, you have to, like, especially, like, I don't even know the process of
you have to, like,
one, you know what I mean?
Same at my apartment, we don't have one. You have to especially, if I wanted to recycle, I would have to have my own bin, and I'd have to take it to a recycling center. And that's just not the way it should be.
No, 100%.
It's not user friendly.
No.
And if something that's not user friendly is not going to be well adapted.
No, not at all.
And now it is an option. Like, you can, the apartment or a townhome I lived at before I moved to Ohio is in Fargo. They did give you a recycling container, and they came to get those. And so, like, we recycled often, like, that was something we paid attention to. But if the option's not right in front of you, and I know it's probably bad to think about it that way, if it inconveniences me a little bit, but, like, the city just has to offer it, and people will do it. So sustainability, I think, it's not that hard.
No, it's just a matter of
just got to start, I guess. It's kind of like anything.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that, in Grand Forks, like, if it wasn't, like, easily accessible, like, I don't know if I know really anyone like that. Like, trash days, I can never see a recycling bin. You know what I mean? So the fact that the city is, like, you have to, it's probably one loop you have to jump through, but still, like, no one, like, I didn't do it. Like, I don't, you know what I mean? So I think I'm going to start after this conversation.
No, I feel like I have to as well.
Yeah. But no, I agree. And so it's just something that, I don't know. I think we all just need
feel guilty.
Yeah.
So this may be a little bit of a switch here, but there's something I find super fascinating about kind of somebody who dives all into one thing. I'm definitely not somebody who does that. Like, I would love to be like somebody who, like, dives in all into running or all into jiu-jitsu or all into CrossFit, like 3 of my main hobbies, or all into reading. That's another thing I do a lot, but I don't. I'll find days where I do. Like, Saturday was all running for me. Like, I didn't do anything else. Or I'll try to, like, spend a Sunday where I read for, like, 10 hours. And just dive in, and I feel, like, super gratified when I do these things. Even when I'm not, like, successful at on run. I obviously didn't finish the race. Don't feel unsuccessful. But, like, doing college football, you kind of have to dive all in. You're still in school, but you're all into football. What was that kind of switch like for you when you moved into the football lifestyle in college?
I think that, because, a lot like you, like, growing up, it was kind of all over the board. You kind of, whatever sport you want to do, you could do it. And, it made it nice, and it made it fun, and I'm glad I did it. I see some kids now that dive fully into one thing out of the gate. And I personally, like, I don't think that's the right move, like, at that age.
Oh, so I'm talking about, like, adult life, not, like, high school. Like, I know what you're talking about, like, the multi-sport athlete in high school, or a kid who's in just 5th grade and chooses, I'm going to be a pro in basketball when you have no idea what you're actually going to be good at. But, more of, like, in the professional sense, like, not pro football, but
like right now,
you're an adult who has chosen one thing that you're good at.
Yeah, I think it's something that it's allowed me to, I think, for football at least, like, get a lot better at. Just because it's, like, all day, every day, it's, like, something that is, like, on the forefront of your mind. You know what I mean? And so I think that it is, I'm super glad, like, that so much of my day is taken up by it, because it kind of puts you in a position where you have to do it, I think for me at least, like, I'm the kind of person, if there's a bunch of different things, and I do find myself, like, not fully into one thing and kind of hop around and bounce around a little bit, and but when it's structured to the point where it's like you got to be fully in, and I think even in college football, like, if you're not fully in, you're really gonna, like, fall out of love with the sport. And I think sometimes being fully in, like, does that to you, but I don't know, I think that there's a lot more fulfillment in it, like if you fully buy into it, and which I think, like, especially on our team now, it's like a full buy-in from everybody. It makes for a better team, makes for a better player, it makes for a better culture, and that's something that I have learned, like with, this college football thing is like, I heard a saying, and it was like if you stay, you'll be champions. And champions being subjective. But like if you, whatever it is, like whatever you're in, whatever avenue it is, if it's running, if it's CrossFit, jiu-jitsu, like if you stay, like if you stick it out, like you'll be successful in it. And that's something that I've, seen true, like in college athletics and football. I think that, if I would have given it up my freshman year, or, not bought in, I think that obviously, I wouldn't be playing right now. So, I don't know. I just think that there's something about, like, in order to fully dive into, I feel like it's it's a singular day thing. It's every single day. Yeah. It's like it's a choice, I think, too. It's a buy-in choice, and it's a, like there's going to be terrible days where you don't want to be fully into it.
Oh, for sure. And, I think it's super, like a lot of people will never experience that of going all in for one thing.
Yeah.
But I think one thing that might be a little bit more, like everybody listening to this can maybe have a basic understanding of, that first time you start weightlifting, or that first time you do a squat cycle. Like I remember, like my dad was our strength coach growing up in Kindred. We would do these Russian squat cycles, and you do high reps, high weight, and then over 9 weeks, 12 weeks, something like that. And you almost always got better.
Yeah.
Whether it was just you were able to hit your heavies, your heavy 1 reps or your 90% plus weights more often, or you were going to get a PR. That was way more common. And it's kind of like you're prioritizing one thing. You're like, I'm going to get better at my squats. I'm going to do them more often. I'm going to pay way more attention to it. And I would say for 90% of people who do it and they stick to it, maybe 95%, 99%, they're going to get better.
Yeah.
And so I think it's something probably easier to grasp for people who have not dove into one thing. That, like you said, you just got, like, you make that choice, and if you do that one thing, it kind of forces you to get better.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool. Like, you spend all your time doing football, you're going to get better at football. And I think one of the coolest things that you shift from high school to my understanding of college football, because like I've seen, I don't watch college football. I get, like I said, I get bored watching sports, but I read about college football coaches. Like, there's like the rise, like the glory and scandal of college football. I don't know if you've ever read it.
I've seen it.
It's a book. Yeah, it's about NCAA college football.
Okay.
And like it's basically the glory and scandal. About like the highs of it and like the lows of it, like the scandals and stuff. But like it's really cool to see the opportunities that like diving into these sports can offer for kids like yourself. And that's not where I meant to go with my point, but I just kind of ramble.
No,
going from high school where it's pretty much all concepts of your plays, and this is your job. Whereas you have meetings now, you have strategy meetings, you have film meetings. You understand how much better do you understand tactics now?
It's so much better. Like it's just like if you think about it as like levels of classes, it's like you get there and it's kind of 101, like football 101, and now it's like 5 years into it, it's like there's so much little stuff that and now it makes like just the game as a whole so much more fun. Like, because like now I can watch an NFL game, like, all right, like that makes sense. I know why they ran that. Like, I know why they did this. Like, this guy didn't do this, that's why they scored. Like little stuff like that makes the sport enjoyable. And so for you, like when you say like you're watching these ultra running highlights, like just seeing little snippets, like I don't know, I think that there's like a level of just being a part of something where it's like what's going on. Like what those dudes are going through those last like
for sure
10 miles. You're like, okay, like they're going through it and you understand that. And so I think that there's like a familiarity that makes it enjoyable, and that just comes with showing up and and doing it. And I think that like I want to back up a little bit, like diving fully in, I think half the battle is showing up, and I think the other half is just intentionality. I think that intentionality is something that I've really tried to like hone in on. Like I'd probably say these last 6 months, like kind of in everything I do, like just being intentional. Like, because I heard it was like, I don't know who it was, but it was like, how you do one thing, so how you do anything. And I'm sure you've heard that.
Yeah.
So I really have been trying to just apply that. Like how you do the dishes is how you do everything, you know, like, and even like, and that one's a little ridiculous, but just on a whole scale of like,
if you know who Andy Stumpf is,
I don't know.
Former Navy SEAL guy, does a podcast I like to listen to, and he talks about how, like, people always ask him like, oh, how do you become successful? And he always says he's like a normal guy, whatever, but he's like, one of the first things you do is you wake up, make the bed. Yeah. Or if you dirty a dish, put it in the dishwasher. Yeah. Don't just put it in the sink or put it next to the sink. Because if you just do all your dishes in the dishwasher, why don't you just put it right into there? Yeah. It takes a second longer. Exactly. And that's like how you do one thing is how you do everything. Are you going to throw your clothes into the hamper, or are you just going to drop them where you took it off? Yeah. Exactly. You know? And it definitely, he talks about doing this one thing, and he does this like Q&A, and so he gets a lot of questions about how to be successful kind of things. And that's not how they word it, but in some form or fashion. Yeah. And he talks a lot about doing this one day of doing the hard thing on every opportunity you have throughout the day. And so you wake up, make the bed. That's the hard thing. Hard. Yeah. Brush your teeth. Next hard thing, which is pretty common, but it's a built-in habit. Yeah. And so like if you didn't brush your teeth all the time, it would be a hard decision. And then you make your coffee, instantly wash your cup or put it right in the dishwasher. And just doing that throughout your whole day, and you can see how much more successful you can be, or how much less time you waste. Yeah. Not picking up your phone. Yeah. I'm guilty of it as well. Like the hour-long binges on Instagram Reels.
Time on what is it, Sundays? I get a notification.
Sundays make me feel awful. I'm just
like, oh my gosh, like, because I think about it, and like in the grand scheme of things, like that 4 hours that it's like your screen time is 4 hours. I'm like, and it happens every week, and I'm just like, what would happen if you applied that 4 hours to something else? Sure. Or even 2 of those hours, you know what I mean? You know? Yeah. So, and there's something that, like there's holding yourself accountable, and then there's like action and accountability. And I've yet to hit that action button. Like the accountability standpoint is like, all right, dude, like you realize like if you were to spend a little bit more time doing something, like you would see benefits immediately. And it's like one of those things, it's like, you know, you'd see benefits, but it's like, I don't know. There's parts where I still don't do it. And so, that's something that I'm working on too. But
well, outside of football, obviously that's a big part of your life. Yeah. And outside of like your MBA program, what else do you do?
Yeah. So, right now, so I run a Christian clothing company, called Rocky Mountain Faith. So that takes up a lot of time. I'm getting my real estate license. That takes up a good amount of time. Okay. And apart from that, there's some student ministries I help lead on campus, and I mean that's kind of
that's a lot of time right there. But just those things alone, probably.
And then I mean just social life and stuff like that. But I would say that football is probably number one on a time scale, and then
you're probably forced for that to be number one right now.
Yeah, exactly. And then everything else is pretty well divided. And I'd say probably school's number 2. But from there, I mean, it's one of those things. It's like having a full plate is something that I love, and I always want to have a full plate.
Having a full plate is one of the best things. Yeah. Like I've experienced. Like my last semester of undergrad, a student taught 8 hours a day. Yeah. I coached CrossFit before the school day. Then I drove an hour out to my student teaching school. Then I would drive back an hour to Fargo or to Kindred, and I would either coach track or work at Red Lobster at night. Yeah. And so and I worked every single day for 4 months. And I was sick probably 3 months of that time. Yeah. And at the end of the semester, I was like, wow, that was an awesome semester. I did so much. I made money. I got my experience student teaching. I didn't have to take out extra loans that semester. I got to coach high school kids still. Like track's a big passion of mine as well. Yeah. And, I coached pole vaulting for 4 years and loved it. But and I didn't want to give any of it up. But having that sense of having a full plate, absolutely love it. And I completely get where you're coming from. And I understand what, like, somebody like yourself, you're diving deep into football, but you still have so many other things you do. Yeah. What's it been like kind of starting a business?
it's been fun. I think that one of the coolest parts about it is like learning something in class and then 20 minutes later doing it. Like that's something that has been super fun.
Oh, that's super interesting. So like, what's it? Tell me an example of something where you've done that.
Okay, so I took a social media marketing class, and so you know, there's certain stuff that I feel like I've learned a lot more like doing it than like whatever was in the lecture. But there's certain stuff in the lecture that certain techniques or certain like certain things that evoke certain emotions. Like there's certain colors that evoke certain emotions, or certain like little stuff like that can do certain things. And I think that like applying like that social media marketing, like, because I'd say like our biggest platform is Instagram. Like that's where we you know, create the most inflow. That's our biggest channel. So like actually doing some of those things that you learn, and some of them don't work and some of them do. Sure. You know what I mean? So just being able to see that like firsthand is something that's been fun. And I don't know, it's been a process, and it's been it's something that is slow. Like it's not something that is immediately like all right, here's, you know, your first product, and here's 100 orders out of the gate. Like, you know, it's not something that,
which would be nice.
Yeah, very, but it's not something that, you know, works like that. And if it did work like that, I don't think it would last very long. Like, I don't think if that were the case, like if it was immediately like, all right, everything's sold out. It's like, well, I don't know if I'd still be doing this, because it's, I think that you learn a lot of like, just ways to navigate business, and especially like in this one, like, and like the clothing and stuff like that. I think that, like if it was immediate success, I don't think that I wouldn't have learned some of the things that I did learn, you know. So
when did you start it?
I started it October of 2020.
Okay. So the COVID project? The
COVID project, yeah.
Okay.
And that was kind of like, it was during the summer. I was at home. We didn't have any football. I was kind of just working out and working. And I felt like a sense of, I didn't have a full plate, you know. And I felt like, you know, I really felt like God had spoken to me, like, there's a ministry, like, you need to start, and there's something that you need to do. And I was like, all right, what does that look like? Like, I wasn't sure. And, you know, it ended up being a clothing company. And so I started in October 2020, actually with Jaxson. And so it was kind of a process of, you know, finding some stuff that,
because I've seen him post about it before.
And so like figuring out like how to build a business, how to build a brand, and then how to build an audience, and, you know, everything in between. And so October 2020, and then from there it was kind of ups, downs.
Is it still the two of you, or
no? Just me. Yeah.
Just yourself.
Yep. And so Jaxson is doing some crazy other, you know, a lot of business ventures, and it's super exciting to kind of hear from him about what he's got going on. And but at the moment it's just me. So.
I have no idea what he's doing right now. I haven't seen him in a while, so I need to catch up with him.
He's working a lot of like startup stuff.
Okay.
Kind of investing in a lot of different people, a lot of different startup companies and businesses, and a lot of his own startups and app creations, and he's all over the board, which is so cool to see. And he loves it. You know, he's excited about all of it. So he's done with school, whatever, and football. You guys called him Grandpa, right? Yeah, he was called Grandpa for a while. He's an old guy.
Yeah, he was there for a while. But with your company, what has been like, you might not want to share it. If you don't want to, that's fine. But like, what's like some of your biggest failures you've gone through that have ultimately led to successes? So like maybe you failed at something and it's didn't go anywhere from there. But like,
so I have a specific example that it was last summer. Okay. So there was this T-shirt. Two T-shirts I was super pumped about. And so there's a good amount of them. I ordered a lot. So I was like, these are gonna do really well. And I felt super confident in them. And I get the T-shirts. They're how I wanted them. Everything looks good. I release them and I post them on Instagram. And I hit post. I see it. You know, when you post on Instagram, you can see it on the homepage. And I look at it, and my heart sinks. Like I am like, no way. And I misspelled the word Christian on the shirt. And so I immediately delete it. I go upstairs, look at all of these printed shirts, like final product, and the word Christian is misspelled on every single one of them.
Oh no.
And so I'm freaking out, and I'm like, that's a lot of money down the drain.
Yeah.
Because I can't sell them. So I'm just kind of like trying to piece together like what to do. And I kind of just like, I started praying. I was like, God, like, what do I do? Like, you know, we got to figure this out. It was super distinct, and it was kind of like, there was just such a feeling of like, this is a Christian clothing company. And like in a lot of ways, like I just wasn't letting God in.
Yeah.
Like I was like trying to just like put the blinders on, do every single thing on my own, control everything, like, you know what I mean? And so there's a lot of conviction in that, and in that moment, and I was like, all right, like my hands are off the wheel. Like, and so, thankfully, like a lot of other products that hadn't been selling started selling.
Okay.
And we were back, and I got the other ones printed, and they got spelled right, and we were on the back on track. But that was one thing that was probably like the biggest like mess up. But there was so much I learned about it. Like there was like that intentionality piece, like slowing down, like doing it right. I think was something that you know, it was super apparent in that moment. And
has that, so you're running a business now. So getting a master's of business administration means a lot more to you.
Yeah.
Are you always thinking about how can I use this to better my business?
Yeah. I think that, I mean, throughout like, because I've only done one class so far, but it was an accounting class.
But also your undergrad.
Yeah, but undergrad too. Yeah. So,
sure.
Kind of everything I learned in undergrad, like, I think that there are things that are super applicable. And I think that it's kind of a two-way street, because there's certain stuff that, like, I'm sure for you, like, there's certain stuff that you learn coaching that you didn't in school. You know what I mean?
Oh,
there's
absolutely.
certain stuff, like,
for sure.
And they just go really, really hand in hand. So, I don't know. I think that there's a lot of stuff that I have learned, like, even in this last summer, like, the first grad class I've taken was an accounting course. There's a lot of stuff I learned about, you know, running a business from a number standpoint that I didn't before. And so I think that it's one of those things, like, you learn it, but then you got to go actually apply it, and you actually got to go do it. So yeah, I mean, there is a lot that I've been able to kind of pick up on, and a lot too that I've been able to take from Rocky Mountain Faith into school, whether that be papers or projects or marketing campaigns, like stuff like that has been, you know, beneficial from that. So
that's super. I think it adds a whole level of credibility, maybe might be the right word, but like authenticness might be the better word to your schooling, and you see the purpose, because so many people go into a degree and they're like, well, I just chose this because that's what my dad did. I don't know what I'm gonna do for a job, or I chose this because it looked cool. And then they go through their 4 years and like, how is this gonna help me with a job? And like, some people might say about my current job, but I really try to look at everything I do and like find the piece where I'm learning from it. And like, I'm a sales manager here. But also, and I didn't go to school for sales. I didn't go to school for business, anything like that. But I went for education. Working with people, understanding how people learn. Well, how am I going to make my customers understand how our product is the best thing? How am I going to make my sales guys know what's the best styles of selling? And, you know, it takes an extra level of education as well for me to learn that sales side as well. But and I've always kind of, like, I always knew that my degree would help me no matter what, whether I go into teaching or not, as a full-time career. But I also still coach. And so education is directly tied to coaching. And so I knew there's always going to be something that helped me from it. And I always knew that coaching on the side is going to help me with teaching. You know, you learn you learn a lot about immature students and how they're going to learn. But you don't learn a ton about how a very good student is going to learn. And a very good student is similar to an adult who is more well-behaved and chooses to be there.
Mm-hmm.
And so coaching CrossFit, which is adults,
Yeah.
18 plus for the most part, like 18 to 75 is the people I've coached.
Yeah.
And you get such a wide array there,
Mm-hmm.
but there's still such a wide array of students in the classroom. You have the kids who can't sit still for 2 seconds and
Yeah.
never pay attention to you,
Mm-hmm.
pull a staple gun on you,
Yeah.
trying to shoot you in class, to a kid who just sits there and pays attention to
Yeah.
every single word you say.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it adds so much to your education,
Mm-hmm.
knowing what you're going to use it for. And I think that's huge.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think even, like you mentioned, you're in sales, like sales is people, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that, like, if you're good with people, like, I think there's so much stuff that you can learn, sales techniques and, ways to do things. And,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you obviously have more experience here than I do, but, like, people that are good with people, like, that's hard to teach,
Mm-hmm.
like, that's something that, like, I think, you do really well at. And I think that even from, like, a coaching standpoint, a teaching standpoint, like, even, like, a learning standpoint, like, you wanting to learn, I think that, I don't know, it's so transferable. And have you seen it, like, super transferable, like, into sales and into kind of what you do? And
Oh, yeah. I've kind of surrounded myself into the educational world
yeah.
with coaching, high school, CrossFit, when I'm at jiu-jitsu. I look at
Mm-hmm.
one of the conversations I had with Rob on the podcast was about the curriculum that he helped develop at
Mm-hmm.
jiu-jitsu. He was like, you guys have one, don't you? He's like, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And like, it's obvious to me because that's the world I've put myself into.
Yeah.
There's the accreditation to become like, it's called a CFL 1. It's a
Mm-hmm.
CrossFit Level 1 certification.
Yeah.
And it allows you to coach classes at a CrossFit gym.
Mm-hmm.
You can see that's a very well-built curriculum
Mm-hmm.
because it engages the learner in activity and also classroom content. So you're hitting all the different types
Yeah.
of knowledge. When I first started coaching track, it was under a certain head coach and it wasn't as structured.
Mm-hmm.
But by the time I finished coaching track, it was a new head coach. And I was the last 3 years of me coaching track was under a newer coach who took on the head coach role and added way more structure. There was like, this is why we're doing these drills.
Mm-hmm.
This is why we're taking an off day here. This is why we're doing this.
Yeah.
And we had between 40 to 70 kids on our team
Mm-hmm.
with 8 coaches my last year. So that's a lot of coaches per student, which was so fun to do because
super good for the kids as well.
yeah, like that coach to student ratio was much lower.
Mm-hmm.
And so it allowed for us to like I was just a pole vault guy my last year. And there was times where I had 30 kids, which was awful. I hated it. But a lot of times it was just like 5.
Yeah.
And you get these really good relationships.
Mm-hmm.
But it allows for like my skill building as a coach
Mm-hmm.
to better help the skill building of the athletes or how what I learned there is going to be transferred into sales. And like ultimately getting back to your question is 100% it. Like I can see the transfer of like I see one of my coworkers and how I interact with him out here and how he reacts to something I say.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, that's also this cue from this quantum teaching book that I read in the past is like, oh, this learner or this sales guy learns in this way.
Yeah.
I better interact with him this way
Yeah.
versus this sales guy who's like reacts completely different to the exact same sentence in the exact same tone.
Yeah.
And you can definitely see the transfer from skill or profession to profession.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, it's definitely interesting and definitely can see that relationship.
Yeah. No, that's really cool. That's really cool.
With starting Rocky Mountain Faith and having it, obviously it's a tie back to your home state, right? Do you want to like continue that brand? Is that your ultimate goal to be your full-time career?
I'm not sure yet.
Okay.
I kind of get this question sometimes, and sometimes, like to answer, like I'm not sure. I think that it's something that what this business has done, and what the Lord's done through it is like it showed me that I want to impact. Like, and I don't know in the future what that looks like.
Yeah.
But it showed me like because Rocky Mountain Faith, like, all the money goes back into Rocky Mountain Faith or to missionaries. Okay. And so, like, we partner with a church, like, in Grand Forks, Gospel Outreach, and we send money to them in their mission department, and we send money to a single missionary that works in the Pacific Northwest. And so I think that what it showed me is, like, if it is my full-time career, 100% all right with that. Like, 100% cool with that. If it is a stepping stone, I'm 100% all right with that. But I think that at the current point in time, I think that it's just, like, I don't know, it's opened my eyes to, like, just a level of, like, you need to, like, I got to do something that helps. Like, I got to do something that is beneficial to, you know, people wherever. If it's around me, if it's on a different side of the planet, you know. So, but to answer your question, I'm not sure at the moment.
I think a clothing company provides you with a great platform to go anywhere, because obviously your goal is to not become, or at least I would assume, is not to become, like, the richest guy in the world and just get a ton of money. Yeah. You want to have an impact. But like, Rocky Mountain Faith is something you can put, like, people can, like, oh yeah, like, I love Jesus and I love God, but I also love the outdoors. Yeah. And that has to be a ton of people out there. Yeah. And you could tie trips to going on a 10-day backpacking trip, camping or whatever, but also, like, you guys could dive so deep into the faith, and there's no reason it can't be a money-making machine. Exactly, yeah. But also, what are you going to do with that money is ultimately where I think you would find either your happiness or your sadness, right? And make an impact or not. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I think it's similar, like Black Rifle Coffee. Yeah. They do so much for the veteran community, but they also make a lot of money. But they give back a ton. Yeah. And so it definitely could be something like that, you know.
Well, it makes it's easy to support. Like
100%.
Black Rifle is easy to support.
You love what they do there for the community. And getting behind a company like Rocky Mountain Faith, you can't be upset that they're a company. You can't be upset that they're successful. Like, why? Yeah. There would be no reason for them to be upset. And obviously, there's the people that get upset at Black Rifle Coffee. Yeah. There's people who get upset at people who are religious, you know? But the large majority of people are going to be like, yeah, that's awesome. And it's something they can identify with, which is super cool. 100%. And I think it lays out an awesome opportunity for you to take it many ways. Yeah. Whether it's always a side project or if it becomes your full-time career.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know, it's like been so apparent too, is like kind of going back to, like, you know, taking what you learned in class and applying it. The sole thing that never ever fails is straight, like, is authenticity. Like, if you're, like, authentic, like, on the page, and you're authentic in your brand, like, it will not, it won't fail, like, because it's real and it's true, and it's like, you think of authentic brands, like, one will come to your mind. You know what I mean? And so it's easy to support, and it's easy to get behind, and it's easy to you know, create. I guess, like, to create authentic stuff is kind of hard sometimes, because there's sometimes where it's like, oh gosh, like, it's been 2 weeks and I'm not sure, like, you know, what to put up on the site or on Instagram. And I think that, like, I would prefer that than spam posting, like,
for sure,
randomness. You know what I mean?
Well, I think a lot of it comes down to diving in, all in, for X amount of time. Yeah. And so right now your main priority is football and school, and then kind of divvied out from there. But say it's an hour a day, half hour a day you spent on your company. But if you do that hour, half hour a day, like, all in, you could do so much. Oh yeah. And, like, the impact is only gonna be exponential the more time you give to it. And it's like, I give myself an hour to read. I'm a slow reader, so say 45 pages or 30 pages. Or do I sit there, read, and my phone's next to me,
Yeah.
And then I get maybe 5 pages read in an hour. But like diving all into that one thing. And
yeah.
Do you think you'd be happy? Like, or not? I think you'd be happy probably if it was like super successful. Obviously, that's a pretty easy question to answer. What in your mind would you like the company to be if you say you had all the funding or like you got a huge grant to get it to blow it up? What would you want the company to be?
So ideally, I mean, like our slogan is "Make Heaven More Crowded."
Okay.
And so, I think that like my biggest prayer is like every time someone wears something, like a conversation about Jesus happens.
Yeah.
And so I think that like having so many different people from so many different spots across the world wear something Rocky Mountain Faith, to where they have the conversation about it.
Yeah.
Like I think that like the biggest thing I want Rocky Mountain Faith to be is a tool,
Okay.
and a vessel for the Lord to work. And so, whether it's a shirt that says, "Ask me about my relationship with Christ," or it's a shirt that just says "Faith that moves mountains," like anything, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like stuff like that invokes conversation and lets the person wearing the shirt like be used by God is something that, that's like
that's pretty cool.
what the mission is. And like we send like a personal like card with every shirt, and it on every single card it's like praying this shirt invokes conversation, brings opportunity, and gives the Lord an opportunity to work. Like that's like our prayer. That's our mission. And so what my goal is for it to look like, not really sure. Like I wish that it was on as many people as Patagonia is, because then that many people would be like, hey, what is that? Like, what does that mean? And I just want it to be, because sharing about the Lord is hard. Like it's something that is difficult. And if like Rocky Mountain Faith can help people do that in a way that's authentic, it's not a way that's, like just shoving the Lord down someone's throat. Like it's a way that's inviting and it's open and it's relatable. It's clothing.
Yeah.
Clothing, it's relatable. And so, I think that's kind of a little bit of a tangent rabbit hole, but that's
well, no, it's what you believe in. It's what you're passionate about. I think it's cool to see. Oh, and I said it earlier. Somebody who dives all in on one thing. Obviously, you're passionate about the Lord, but kind of the way you tied. Like I really like that line you said of like, is it faith can move mountains? Yeah, super cool. And I think it's somebody who is looking for something could identify with that.
Yeah,
and I think you, from the sounds of it, you've built like a really awesome base to start with, and like your reason for doing it is very wholesome and good. And so when you think about somebody who wants to dive all in, put that time in, and they're like super authentic about it, I think like you have an awesome platform to start from.
Yeah,
as long as like a giant company doesn't steal all your information and sue you out of it, like that'd be bad.
That would be bad. We're not in a position with lawyers right now to win that.
You just gotta find a lawyer friend at UND.
That's
it'll be
right.
good.
Yeah.
But no, I think it's super cool to hear.
I appreciate that. Yeah.
Like the passion you have for it, while still doing other things all in, which is wild. I don't have that kind of time. Well, we have the same kind of time, but I don't allocate my time that well, which is cool. But what are things that you would like to share, like about your company or?
Yeah, I mean, for anyone listening, RockyMountainFaith.com is our website. Every order supports missionaries all over the world. It's just a small clothing brand that, like I said, I just, if you wear it, I want you to have an opportunity to share, and I want you to have an opportunity to be comfortable in sharing, like, and enjoy what you're wearing and knowing like, there's purpose behind it. And I think that, that's kind of what I want people to know. And I want people just to understand that, the company is like every card that gets sent, like on a shirt, it's like if it's their first order, it's welcome to the brand.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it is like, I envision it, and I don't know if anyone wearing it does the same, but it's a big, you know, kind of family and a big kind of like a group of people that have the same goal, you know. But
you know, I asked about like your biggest failure earlier, like kind of from like just from my point of view, I look at it like an education thing. Like, what have we learned, right?
Exactly, yeah.
What has been like your happiest moment or the thing that's brought you the most joy from starting this company?
I think there was a moment where I remember it was our first order from someone I didn't know whatsoever.
Okay.
Was like a moment where I, you know, vividly remember. It was I don't know, I won't share any names, but it was a woman from New York.
Okay.
And so I was like, that's cool. You know what I mean? And that's like, it was a point in time where I was like, okay, like, you know, God's doing something with it. And it was a super small step. It was something that was super, you know, in the grand scheme of things seemed super small, and now it seems super small, but in the moment it was cool, and it was exciting. And I just think anytime like someone asks about it, like I get pumped up, you know, I get fired up, because then it's an opportunity to share it, and it's an opportunity to you know, show people like, you know, this is what it is, kind of.
I have no idea how big you guys are. Are you guys in any stores or anything like that? No. Have you ever, I think an experience, I'm just trying to put myself, like be empathetic into your scenario of owning a clothing brand, like seeing somebody random, you have no idea who they are, wearing your clothing. Like, has that happened? Yeah.
I saw someone, it was like at like our school dining center. Okay. And it was like, someone was just wearing the tee, and I was like, that's pretty cool. But, so I got to have a conversation with them, but that's like the only time it's happened so far.
Well, hopefully it happens way more.
Yeah.
But
hopefully.
No, that has to be a super cool feeling.
Yeah. It was awesome. It was fun. But
awesome. And so you guys mostly sell through Instagram?
Yeah.
You have like an Instagram store?
We have an Instagram. Works. We sell through our website mainly. Okay. But Instagram is our main like marketing and like channel, and you know, like I guess sales funnel to get people to our website.
You're making like TikToks and stuff?
Not on TikTok, no.
We have a social media. We call her social media girl because that's what TikTok has named her. Yeah. But you wouldn't think for freight that it would bring in people. Like, it works. That's what we do is freight. We help customers move large items. Yeah. But like we have found clients off of TikTok, and people just love the brand because of the TikTok. And we'll take some of the videos from TikTok and put them on LinkedIn or Instagram. But people are like, oh, those are real people. Yeah. They make jokes. They have bad days. They have good days. And you don't always see social media in that light. No. But a lot of people just see like a shipping company as like, oh, you're just a shipping company. That's all you do. I was like, no, we have fun. People run it. Yeah. We go golfing. We do stupid things in the office. We get off task. You know, we go play bags out in the courtyard every day. And like we're real people. And like when the Johnny Depp trend was going around, like running with your arms up in the air, like we did that here. And then like a bunch of random people like comment on which salesperson had the best Johnny Depp run. And I don't know, it's fun, but
like TikTok is something that
it also spreads super.
It's like wildfire. Fast. Like I remember, I don't have TikTok, but someone showed me a video and it was like, so I've downloaded it a couple times, and I don't know if it's on everyone's, but mine like doesn't show the time, like on my phone screen. Well,
Instagram does that too now.
Really?
You can't see the time.
I hate that.
I know. Same with like Netflix.
Yeah. Have you seen I think it's called like The Social Dilemma? Yeah. That I literally wanted to throw my phone away. After watching that, I was like, this is insane. But
I need to watch it again. Maybe I'll get my habits under check.
Yeah, seriously, it might lower the screen time, but I don't know. I had to delete it because it was like 45 minutes straight, and I was just like mindless on it. But I saw one. It was like 12.5 million likes, and I was like, that is so many. Whoa. Like my buddy just like sent me a video, and it was like, that's so many people. But yeah, it's wild. I mean, it's something that spreads, and it's such a good marketing tool.
For sure.
It's really, really good.
And it's like the algorithms in them like automatically just send it to you now.
Mm-hmm.
Like you know, on Instagram now, you can get a video or a picture popped up onto your page from somebody random in New York that you have no connection with, but there's this one thing that you might find interesting about them, and so Instagram sends it to your feed. Then you're like, oh, I'll follow this person, and it's like, oh, now you'll spend more time on the app.
Yeah, exactly. Like when I'm on like the reels or whatever, it's like fishing and like skiing and golf and like weightlifting, like and that's it. And I'm just like, all of it's interesting, because they know, like, so. I mean, and sometimes I'll catch myself like in the algorithm of like, wow, like they got you. Like I feel like a fish that like got hooked.
Oh yeah.
I'm just like,
I get a lot of like handcrafted knives.
Yeah.
And then weightlifting and running, stuff like that. But or you go to a website, and then after, like it'd be super. So I have not like Google stalked you, looked you up on Instagram, anything like that. It'd be super interesting if I get ads for like you or your company. Yeah. Based off of this. It'd be fascinating.
I think it might. I was talking about Wendy's last night, and then I got an Instagram story for Wendy's.
Oh yeah.
They're, you know.
Now I'm gonna get Wendy's ads.
Yeah, probably.
But no, it's definitely fascinating from like if you look at it from like a sales point of view, because I don't deal with the TikTok at all. But I'm also like, oh, is this gonna help us make more sales? Like that would be cool. And so it has been fascinating to see how it does work. And we're like the only, like there was another company that followed up with us that has been making similar TikToks in the freight world. We're like the only one doing it. We're like, we all post on LinkedIn. We all contribute to making the TikToks. Yeah. We don't all make them, but like you can't just have one person doing it over and over again. But it has been fascinating to see that it does work, even for something as simple as freight. Yeah, which is pretty complex in the background, but for like getting people to be interested and see your company, some people think we're huge. Yeah, when like this is all we are. It's like this office right here, and then a few people that work from home, and so 20 people. But a lot of people think we're much bigger because we have this huge LinkedIn presence, and we have a big social media presence on those apps, and it's just like, well, people think like we have a professional studio, but as you can see, it's just we bought a nice light, and my boss uses a nice microphone, and it's a nice camera, but it's nothing too complicated. Like the light looks pretty complicated, and you're like, how do I work that thing? All you do is turn it on.
You just turn it
It's
on.
very simple. It's easier than the flash on your iPhone.
The flash on the iPhone sometimes is.
Well, actually, I realized recently that it is quite complicated. Like I don't know how to turn it on anymore.
I don't either.
It's just automatic. But this is super simple. All you do is flick the on switch, and it's like, oh, that's super simple. But people are like, oh, you have a full studio, all this stuff. And these are just mine. I bring them in, but people like think you have a conference room because we just position it a different way.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, or you go and you use that wall for a video, or like,
there's so much different.
They thought about doing a podcast, my boss and my brother-in-law, and they're just gonna like sit in those chairs there, and now it looks like you're in a completely different room. Yeah, but it's just like that's just our coffee space. So,
well, something that's so nice about that is like when TikToks reach whoever from wherever, you know, on the planet, like you never know who needs freight shipping. You know what I mean? And so it's like that sales funnel that is so huge on social media. Like millions of people just get filtered into it, and it's like maybe out of that one from that the million people that saw one video, like maybe one needs freight shipping. You know what I mean?
And it's so simple. You know, it's complex. You know, it's like, oh, you could look at our girl who does TikTok. It's like, oh, she spends all of her time on the phone. I was like, no. At some point, it's mind numbing to just look at TikToks all day and figure out what's a good one to use for us. Yeah. And so like I have to pull myself back sometimes and be like, no, she is working. Yeah. She's actively trying to find things that will boost our company. Yeah. not just looking at her phone. Yeah. But she's on a work phone, not her personal phone. So it's a different thing. And it's also like you could look at somebody who watches movies all day, but they could be somebody who's in the film industry trying to find different like shots and ways to film a scene, or I don't know. It's interesting.
No, it is. I mean, well, that's something that's so cool. Even like with Rocky Mountain Faith, it's like I'll get inspiration from the most random things. It's like that could be, you know, either a marketing tool or that could go on a t-shirt, like little stuff like that it makes it fun, and it makes it something that is kind of 24/7. Like I'll see something like my bookmark page, like on my Instagram, is like completely random. And some of it is just like little, like a certain color orange that I thought was cool, or some of it's like you know, a way that a font is, like little stuff like that. That's like there's just little sparks of inspiration, you know what I mean? I think that, like, you know, that like the TikTok thing and that movie producer thing, like it's true. And you know, I think that like you can learn from absolutely anything, and that's what I love. There's so much access to learning, and it comes down to like wanting to learn. You know,
no, I would consider myself a lifelong learner, and I am fascinated by something you can learn from the most random situations, or from somebody that you think could have nothing to do with your life. But no, I think it's kind of crazy. We've been going for over an hour and a half now, but I just noticed the time. But I think having a company, and I don't have a company, but like kind of trying to put myself in your shoes, is you obviously want to succeed. Do you notice yourself like we talked about schooling, right? You take things from schooling that you want to help build your brand, but have you taken things from like football, from your outdoor life, obviously kind of your outdoor life because it's called Rocky Mountain Faith, but do you take things from outside the business, like from football that have helped you with your company? Or
I think like from like a super like, you know, baseline business perspective, like ways to do things, I don't think so. But I think from a mindset part, absolutely. Ways that I've kind of learned to work in football, and kind of applying that to everything. I mean, Rocky Mountain Faith, school, relationships, like anything. I think that like there's things I've learned about myself in ways that I think even like ways that make me tick, and like stuff that you know, I find passion in, and one of them is kind of just putting my head down and working, you know. And I think that I found that in football, and I've been able to kind of, you know, put that toward Rocky Mountain Faith, and that's something that, you know, I'm super grateful for. And I think even from what's helped too is like guys on the team like really supporting the brand, you know, is something that has also been a byproduct of football. But I just think there's a mindset kind of that I've been able to start to have. I think that by no means, like I listen to some guys, they're like the mindset coaches guys and all those kind of guys, and nowhere near where they're at, you know what I mean? But there's little stuff that I've tried to, you know, pinpoint and learn and expand on and apply that, you know, into business. For sure. And it's always like, it always looks different, and it's always a process of kind of figuring it out. But yeah, I'd say that like from football is kind of that. I think of like basically every college athlete as somebody who's exceptional, and you probably have a much different perspective. You do have a different perspective than I do. You probably think a lot of your teammates are lazy. Maybe not a lot, but some. But to me, I'm like, man, they're all college athletes. They're all doing school. They're all investing this 28 days for fall camp, right? Yeah. They're all investing this time into one thing. Like that's noble. That's super cool. And like just doing school and just doing football is an awesome thing.
And then obviously you do more on top of that, but like you could look at anybody who does that. You could look at anybody just doing a 4-year degree and that's it. They don't work outside of that. They don't do anything outside of their 4-year degree as like a noble thing.
100%.
But like I think of college athletes as like these exceptional people because you have such a high demand of your time. Obviously it's like kind of built a work ethic for you. How else do you think it has benefited you as an overall person? Maybe like even into your faith.
I think my favorite, my favorite thing in life, I think, is like the huddle in football.
Okay.
And so where I'm going with this is like, it's 11 different dudes from 11 different spots from all over wherever. But those 11 different dudes are there for the exact same reason. And it's to succeed on that play. You know what I mean? And to eventually win that game. And so I think that just being able to be around, like being super far from home, and being around people from, like, you name it, like they're probably on our team, you know, from that spot. And so I think that's something that I've been so thankful for, is just to meet and interact with so many different guys from so many different walks of life, and just have friendship and fellowship with all of them is something that has taught me so much about, I don't know, just like different perspectives, and something that I think is so valuable. And you don't get it without, you know, being in a situation or in a setting like that. And like a college football locker room is 100 dudes, you know?
Yeah.
And so being able to just, I don't know, like have access to so many different, you know, people's stories and so many different people's viewpoints and the way that, you know, they work and the things that make them go. Like you talked about, like with some of your sales guys, like understanding what makes them go, you know, I think that just having that on that team is something that, like, it's already, I felt like, opened, like, you know, doors and communication for me, and being able to kind of talk to more people and I don't know, I just think that it's something that'll pay off greatly down the road. And I mean, I would hope that it does, you know. And so
I really like your huddle analogy. I think it's very, I'm just thinking about how, like, just at rocket shipping here, there's a direct comparison. But like, what's your position, I guess?
I play outside linebacker.
Outside linebacker.
Yeah.
Okay. And so you said huddle, so I kind of just assumed that you were offensive.
Yeah. Well,
but you've done it before,
thing,
and you see it. But it's so transparent that, or like obvious how that correlates. Thinking from the huddle, you have, we'll just say, a guard. You have this big dude who probably thinks the wide receivers, all they do is run around, and they're never in the trenches, and they never do anything. Yeah. But you need them. Exactly. You need that long bomb. You need that fast person who's going to make a play, or also maybe cause a distraction. Yeah. Right? And they might think, oh, that guard is so lazy. Yeah. He hardly moves. Or that center never does anything. Yeah. Hardly runs, right? Why am I doing all the running? Yeah. But both are obviously integral to the process. And I was just thinking, like, we could tie it to a company structure. Like, so many companies have, like, engineers that think the sales guys, all they do is goof off and play talk to people. And well, it was like the engineer wouldn't have a job if the salesperson didn't bring in business. But the salesperson would have a job if the engineer didn't create a product. Yeah. And so I think that huddle analogy was like mind blowing.
It's I mean, it's not my original thing. I heard it from someone.
You can take it. I don't care.
But yeah, man, it's so good. And I think that, like, once everyone on the team or everyone in the company understands, like, this is the goal. And some people might get more glory than others, and some people, you know, might get hurt, and some people, you know, may have a bad game, like, whatever it is. And you can apply that anywhere. I think that understanding, like, that everyone has the same exact goal. Yeah. You know, some people may play better, some people may have a bigger role, but everyone has a job. And our defense has this huge saying of just do your job. Yeah. Like, not every play, and I'm the one that, you know, is supposed to make a tackle. Like sometimes I sprint full speed down the line and I, you know, cut a lineman's legs out. Like, and I just get piled up on, you know, and it's not fun, but that's my job on that play. You know what I mean? So, I don't know. I think that like everyone grasping that and having that understanding and, you know, a leader that can convey that and a leader that can, you know, point dudes in that direction is a good leader. It's hard, you know, it's hard to, especially I feel like in a company aspect, because it's like goals change year to year. Football is like just win the game, you know, but from a company, it's like, there's different, you know, a lot of different variables. And so to have, you know, a boss or a manager that can effectively like point people in that direction is difficult, you know.
You seem like a very intelligent person and you're very driven. Obviously you do a lot of things outside of just football or outside of just school. Are you like a leader on the team?
Yeah, I would say so. I think I've stepped into more of a leadership role as I've gotten older.
Yeah.
But we have